Χαίρετε κυρίες και κύριοι και καλώς ήρθατε στο euronews. Η Ευρωπαϊκή Κεντρική Τράπεζα θα ξεκινήσει να μειώνει τα επιτόκια τον Ιούνιο και μάλιστα θα το κάνει με ρυθμό πιο επιθετικό από ότι η Ομοσπονδιακή Κεντρική Τράπεζα των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών. Αυτή είναι η εκτίμηση του Τζο Brusuelas, επικεφαλής οικονομολόγου της Αμερικανικής Εταιρείας Ασφαλιστικών και Συμβουλευτικών Υπηρεσιών RSM, του οποίου η ομάδα αναδείχθηκε η καλύτερη ομάδα προβλέψεων για την πορεία των επιτοκίων το 2023 από το Bloomberg. Ο Τζο Brusuelas, στη συνέντευξη που έδωσε στο euronews, τόνισε την καλή πορεία της ελληνικής οικονομίας. Συμπλήρωσε ωστόσο ότι υπάρχει ανάγκη να συνεχιστούν οι μεταρρυθμίσεις. Mr. Brusuelas, the Europeans are holding their breath waiting for the ECB to start cutting rates. Do you see this happening anytime soon?
I do. I think that Christine Lagarde has signaled that the ECB is getting ready to cut the policy rate, and we think that it starts in June. And my sense is that the ECB is going to be one of the leaders in what we consider to be a near synchronized global set of rate cuts by the major central banks. Moreover, I expect the ECB to be a bit more aggressive than, say, the American Federal Reserve. The United States economy is outperforming the European economy by leaps and bounds. As a matter of fact, they're just going in different directions.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would like to stay a bit on that. Why do you think that the American economy is performing so much better than the European one?
Because it put forward a more coherent and sustained fiscal approach during the pandemic that is now paying dividends. Second, the U.S. labor market, it is so dynamic at this point that even with inflation above where it was for the previous 20 years, American workers are seeing wage gains above inflation at this point. That's really what's driving the American economy, and it explains the primary difference between the economic performance in the U.S. versus the European Union.
Even if the cost of money eventually does come down, the cost of living is estimated to stay at current elevated levels for a long time. Does this mean that Europeans have to learn to live with less disposable income?
I think Europe's going through its adjustment, and it's about a year behind the United States. So, in my estimation, the European economy is essentially bottomed out. 2024 is a year of transition. Next year, 2025, you're going to see much better growth out of the European Union, primarily due to the economy recovering. Policy conditions will be set so that we're going to begin to see a more rapid pace of growth. And I do think that you will see wage gains begin to pick up as companies are going to just pay workers more so that they can adjust to that new cost of living. It's not going to be particularly pleasing, and for some cohorts, it'll indeed be painful. But once we get through this year, I think things are going to look a lot better in Europe.
What does this mean for countries like Greece that heavily depend on services and more specifically on tourism?
Okay, so I expect the euro to approach parity by the end of this year against the American dollar. You should expect, if you're in Greece, a wave of tourists starting second half of this year, which means in the European summer, tourism should pick up and be quite robust. And I would suspect that will continue all through the remainder of the year. And it will be a constant theme in 25 and 26, as you just see a stronger dollar relative to the euro attract North Americans into the European vacation spaces like Greece.
You're at the helm of a major financial institution. Could you share with us what is the opinion of foreign investors for Greece? Do they think it's an attractive investment destination?
You know, Greece has engaged in a remarkable economic turnaround over the past decade. And we all know what happened 15 years ago and the difficulties that were faced. But that's now in the past. And I think it's important that the Greek policy establishment take advantage of these conditions to engage in the structural reforms necessary to push forward economic growth, better employment, and prosperity that's shared across the Greek population. I mean, things are undeniably going much better in Greece than they are in many other economies in the European Union. And I would expect that things are going to get better, especially as we see the European Union be a lot more aggressive in terms of rate cuts and the relative depreciation of the euro.
So more reforms are needed in Greece?
Always. Yeah. I mean, this is something that's good. This is the work of a generation. This isn't something that is going to be done overnight and should be done overnight. It's something that should be phased in so that there's a reasonable time of adjustment for the population. At the end of the day, when we talk economics and finance, we sometimes get lost among, we lose the forest amongst the trees, and we forget it really is about the people. And you want to make sure that the people have time to adjust to these structural changes. Because let's face it, the global economy is rapidly changing, and Greece is going to change along with it.
Thank you very much for this discussion.
No problem. Thank you.